Hello. Good evening. What? Ma said hello.
Hello.
Ma said hello. Rojo's on the couch.
Hello.
It's Saturday Night Live.
With the one and only Enlightenment without God.
And there is Scott. Hi, Scott. Whoops. And you got bumped out by Raj. Hi, Raj. And hi, B. B, when are you going to get a picture on your profile? Yeah. And there's Roseanne with a hello. SNL. Saturday Night Live. We just had a nice dinner. We had green beans and sweet potatoes and khichdi and a little bit of leftover chocolate hummus. But the good news is there are beans cooking right now for tomorrow's chocolate hummus. Pretty good stuff.
Pretty good stuff.
Pretty good stuff. Anyway, so Saturday Night Live, this one is easy. We're hanging out with our friend Swami Rama and his discussion on Mandukya Upanishad, the version called Enlightenment without God. And after several sessions, we went through the introductory, listen to me, the introductory chapter. The book is designed only 2 chapters. We went through the chapter designated as Awakening. And now we get to go through chapter 2, which is called Mandukya Upanishad. And so this is verse 1, chapter 1, verse 1. This is kind of short and sweet, and so if we get it done soon, I was thinking with this thing, I like to kind of go through it just one at a time, and helps it have some punch. So I won't do 2 chapters of this. They're short little things, but if we can get some, if I can break Ma Tree free from the kitchen, maybe she can help stir up some other conversation with this. And if we end up finishing in a few minutes, it's okay. There's Johnny. Hi, Johnny. And there's Nilesh. Hello, Nilesh. We're going to have a Nilesh here with us in a few days. That's going to be nice. We're looking forward to it. We were talking about you earlier. And Rojo told me you said you're happy with the food. So we will keep doing that.
Does he like doses?
Do you like doses? Nilesh, do you like doses? Ma Tree has been trained by her dosa guru Raj, and if I do say so, makes a pretty wicked oil-free dosa. He hasn't typed anything, but I think his answer is going to be yes. Puja probably already spoils him with doses.
We can have some doses.
We can have some doses. The answer, the official answer though, Ma, is yes.
Yes?
Yes.
From you or from Nilesh?
From Nilesh.
Good.
There's no elaboration on it. It's just, I can tell, I can feel the inflection in that 3-letter word. It's just it's a definitive, no holds barred, no discussion, yes. Boom, yes. It is done with a very, 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 very clear buddhi. This is evidence of a clear buddhi. Do you want doses? Yes.
Okay, it's my response.
Okay. All righty. I will put it here for you. Get ready. Okay. We were planning to get dosa batter next week. Well, I don't know about the dosa batter, but you get dosa. They get dosa batter. Matri.
We make it from scratch.
We make it from scratch. She just barked out from the kitchen with a look on her face. We make it from scratch. You know. So anyway, and guess who else is here, Ma?
What?
A Dutchie is here.
Who's up in the middle of the night?
Aranka.
Oh, but she's in Thailand.
I know, but she's still a Dutchie.
Absolutely.
And she hasn't renounced Dutchiness, I don't think.
You can ask her in Dutch how she's doing.
Little help?
Hoe gaat het?
Hoe gaat het? I forgot. I haven't used it in a while. Hoe gaat het, Aranka? I probably won't be able to read her answer, though. I have no idea how you spell geweldig. How do you spell
Geweldig.
Geweldig. Geweldig. Heel goed.
Heel goed.
Heel goed.
What does he say? H-E-E-L?
H-E-E-E-E-L.
Heel goed. Very good.
Geweldig. And then she tried it again with geweldig. Geweldig. Goeldig. Maybe goeldig. Anyway. Hari Om. Om iti etat aksham idam savam tasya blah 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 blah.
Wow, is that in the text?
That's what it says right there. I'm not good at reading that. Now, come on, turn that off, Rojo. We'll get feedback. Rojo is over on the couch typing in Hari Om. The English version of Hari Om is Hari Om. Listen to this. Let this sink in. There's 12 verses, and there's this tremendous, tremendous wisdom in these 12 verses, and each one of them says something, and this first one is very, very, very potent. The entire universe is the syllable Om. So, for just a moment, think of it as a name. In English, the name of this thing is called pen. So the word pen refers to this kind of object. That's the word. So as a word, what is the object that the Om is the significator of? The entire universe is the syllable Om. That's pretty big, isn't it? Then the following is the exposition of Om, these following verses. Everything in the past, present, and future is verily Om. That which is beyond time, space, and causation is also Om. So everything that's here now in space, as we know it, is Om.
Om Tatsa.
And everything that is beyond that space and that time and these chains of events out here that we know as causation, all of that, the ground out of which all of this comes is Om. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Now, here's what Swami Rama has to say about it. All this is Om. All manifested objects of the world and all unmanifested states of reality are denoted by this syllable Om. Om is the imperishable eternal sound. Om is also the name of the absolute reality, both manifest and unmanifest. Om is the reality, capital R, on all dimensions. And the reality, capital R, the reality is Om. Om is the reality, and the reality is Om. The aspect of reality that manifested in the past remains manifest in the present and will manifest in the future is Om. The absolute reality that is not conditioned by the past, present, and future is also Om. If Om is a word, the whole universe is its explanation. Note, I'm just as remember when we encounter Om in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali only gives it something like 7 verses, pithy little comments, does not go into any great depth explanation. But recall that one of the sutras that Patanjali says that when you remember the Om, the pranava, you should do so by remembering its meaning. But there, Patanjali does not try to outline in depth the meaning of the Om. This is what this Upanishad does. Much of the rest, as you know, much of the rest of the Upanishads do it and do that. But this Upanishad, the Mandukya, especially is about that. And then on top of that, we get Swami Rama talking about it, and then the rest of us have conversation about it. And Om Tat Sat and all that kind of stuff. If Om is a word, the whole universe is its explanation. If it is a sound, the whole universe is its vibration. If it is a sound, the whole universe is its vibration. If it is representative, it represents both the manifested and unmanifested aspects of the cosmos. Whatever is there. You know, in modern science, they talk about that there's gravity that they cannot find. When they look at some galaxies that are spinning, and they know they can estimate how much matter is in that galaxy. And by measuring that, they say this galaxy should not be staying in a shape as this spiral thing. There's not enough gravity in the galaxy to hold it together. This galaxy ought to be spinning off and flying away, but it's not. So they ended up coming up with the idea of what they call in English dark matter. They can't find dark matter, but because something's holding the solar systems and all of those stars within the galaxy together, the scientists infer that there is dark matter that cannot be detected in any conventional way. And this dark matter has gravitational pull to it. And so there, in modern science, they have a kind of notion of unmanifested matter. There's no suns or stars or planets or asteroids or any of those kind of things that they can find. But yet it's there, and it has an effect. It has a gravitational effect that allows the galaxy to remain in a spiral form rather than flying off into space. It just comes into my mind. So this statement that is Om is that even that unmanifested, that we as modern scientific people don't even know about, that we only can theorize is there, to the yogis, this too is part of Om. We may not know the physical science about it, but it's all Om. Where was I? Om is the syllable and sound that represents all levels of consciousness. All potentialities, forms, and thoughts are expressions of Om, the infinite and unmanifested power that is not subject to change. Now, here's a little tip, a way that we can use this in the practical world around us. We all know that everything's a manifested of the one, but here's a way to say that this is kind of neat too. Everything around you, even people you don't like, even political figures who are real jerks, everything and everyone is a manifestation of Om, is an expression of Om. All potentialities, forms, and thoughts are expressions of Om. Now, the more you and I hold that notion, the more we ponder it, contemplate upon it, and come to see the good sense of it, it sets the stage for us to be able to more and more, better and better, whatever that means, live in a stance of vairagya, in a stance of non-attachment, because we really come to see, wait a minute, everything, there's nothing excluded from being an expression of Om. Hence, we see where Swami Rama says, love all and exclude none. This is one of the ways of holding that. Nothing and no one can be excluded from Om. Nothing. And so this is not a religious stance where some religions will say our people are the good people and those other people are the bad people. And it's our duty to God to get rid of those bad people. We can't do that if we say everything is an expression of Om. Doesn't mean we don't correct problems in the world. We do that. But all potentialities, forms, and thoughts are expressions of Om, the infinite and unmanifest power that is not subject to change. Everything out here is subject to change. But that pure ground, infinite ground of unconscious, it does not change. All expressions are manifested by and finally return to their original unmanifested source. And you and I need to contemplate on that a lot to realize that we think, oh, okay, well, it manifests out here and then it just returns back into its unmanifested form. But there's a subtlety to that sentence that's so easy to overlook. Yes, things manifest out here and return in appearance. They seem to do that. But at the same time, the ground reality symbolized by the Om is not changing in the first place. There is the appearance of it changing. And that goes on. It comes out, manifests, and it returns inward. And at the same time, it never quit being the Om. So there's a paradox in the comment, which is kind of cool. All other words have been derived from this eternal word, which is the name of the absolute reality. Om is the eternal source of speech. Vak, V-A-K with a line over the A, Vak. All phenomena and all desires emanate from that infinite source, Om. Everything, all phenomena and all desires emanate from the Om. The fulfillment of all desires depends on knowledge of it, and one's desires are fulfilled in proportion to one's progress towards it. Desires are fulfilled in alignment with one's progress toward it. Worldly pleasures are transient, but the truth reveals eternal wisdom and bliss. Truth meaning the understanding of Om. Om is the eternal sound that expands the individual consciousness to universal consciousness. This stuff is pretty rich, isn't it? It just takes me off on a little journey just reading this. But I'm staying with you. The aspirant who meditates on Om and contemplates on its meaning understands the absolute truth. Notice this sentence structure that Swamiji used here. There's a little key in here. The aspirant who does two things, meditates on Om. Meditate means I follow it to the silence. We keep saying that, and there's the Om, and here's our friendly circle chart, and it's an Om symbol, and we follow it. Om, we follow that inward to silence. That's the meditation part. The aspirant who meditates on Om and contemplates on its meaning understands the absolute truth. This is why we spend time going through this, why I'm wanting in this journey through to go through slowly with this thing as we can, because I want to encourage you to really ponder this stuff, really give it some thought, contemplate on it. Because if all we do, I say this cautiously, if all we do is follow the sound of Om to silence, if that's all we do, that's a very good thing to do. But we can accidentally become trapped in a mere pleasure, so to speak, of the process of going to mental silence, just silence of the mind. And that's a good thing to do. We have many people in the world who are very stressed out. Life in this external world can be stressful. And so the simple act of following the Om to silence.
Well, that's mere stabilizing the mind.
That's mere stabilizing the mind. Ma hollers out from the kitchen. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to find a way to say. But what we also want to do with it is we want to contemplate on its meaning. And nobody can go with us to do that. I can sit here and talk to you. We can have a conversation about it. We can read this together. That's what we're doing. This is helpful. You know, when we hang out in this kind of way, I think of this as a group contemplation. We're together doing it. I'm sitting here holding this in my hand, reading the words, and I'm talking, but you're with me here, and we are contemplating together. We are using our minds to weave a journey to inner insight. We're not just sitting here saying, okay, let's all do Om and go to silence, and I'll just sit here and stare at the computer, and you can stare at your computer, and we'll just sit here in silence for a while. Might be a fun thing to do. But contemplate on the meaning. The aspirant who meditates on Om and contemplates on its meaning understands the absolute truth. You may have caught that earlier today we went through and talked about the four functions of mind. Those four functions of mind that are within the Antakarna, those are a part of the meaning of Om. We run into that in a couple verses from now. It's not in this verse, but that is a part of Om. So when it says we're going to contemplate on the meaning of Om, which I just read that sentence 2 times, if I'm going to contemplate on the meaning Om, a part of that is to be aware of and contemplate on the wheel chart, the wheel of the four functions of mind of manas, chitta, ahamkara, and buddhi. And we have to do that ourselves internally. Sorry, there's no escaping that. Om is a syllable, a symbol, and a sound that does not belong to any particular language. When one studies the symbol, the syllable, and the sound individually and collectively, that means we do that. We look at the symbol, the shape of the symbol. We talk about how that symbol physically lays out a representation of waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and turiya. And those three transition phases are in there too, which are the unmani, the aladani, and the samadhi. So we go through them. Om Mantra course, we go through that in some kind of detail. If you haven't been through that, please go through it. If you have been through it and finished it, go through it again and contemplate on it again. Doesn't have any particular language. When one studies the symbol, the syllable, and the sound individually and collectively, one receives the knowledge of all the levels of reality, gross, subtle, subtlemost, and beyond. Now that's a simple little sentence there, but you probably have detected that this is going to be talked about in the forthcoming verses. Gross, subtle, subtlemost, and beyond is Vaishvanara, Tejasa, Prajna, and Turiya. It's just Swami Rama is not hitting us with those terminologies here in this first verse. Each level is a retention of particular memories. Each level is a particular level of manifestation. They are called Vaishvanara, Tejasa, Prajna, and Turiya. And if you want to know the meaning of those, we have to do the contemplation ourselves. And be patient, because in coming sessions together, we will talk about the meaning each one of those. It's been outlined, it's been described here by Swami Rama, and we will go through it slowly so that hopefully it can sink in. And that will give you some answers, some resolution to that question, Johnny. And so, and then, of course, as you well know, then I don't need to tell you this, but we all know it. Then what we have to do is alone turn inward and ponder this. I don't know if Rojo's sleeping on the couch or if she's contemplating on the levels of consciousness of Om, or maybe some of both. This is sometimes what most of us do. If we lay down on a couch or the floor or someplace comfortable, it's an excellent place to do contemplation of this stuff. And you just accept it. Okay, I know that from time to time while I'm doing this, I drift off and I lose consciousness, but then I come back and then continue with the contemplation. And I learned something about the states of consciousness, even if I do that thing called fall asleep. I fall into it and I come back out. And that's part of the experiment. All desires, thoughts, and feelings cannot be brought into action and expressed through speech. All of the actions cannot be brought through speech. Why? Because, he says the word here, because. Why is it that all desires, thoughts, and feelings cannot be brought into action and expressed through speech? Why? The reason is because the senses through which one expresses oneself do not have that capacity. They simply do not have the capacity to be able to be expressed out here. So much of these subtle insights that we have, like Johnny said there about of a particular memories at each level, the descriptions of those levels cannot really be brought out here. We try to talk about them in words, but the words are very, very inferior compared to the inner insight that we struggle later to find words for. So somebody writes the Mandukya Upanishad with its 12 verses as an outline, and then what do we have to do about it? We have to oral tradition. We have to talk about it. We have to have conversations about it. we're in a modern time, so we have internet. We can talk this way. We can use a book. We can use a written description from somebody else who knows this stuff, and that's what we're doing. And we can do that, and then we can sit quietly and contemplate it on ourselves. And this is what we must do. The senses simply do not have the capacity to put this into words. So the words of Swami Rama, as good as they are, they're inadequate. Elsewhere, Swami Rama has recommended, many people have recommended, Gaudapada's Karika. Gaudapada is the teacher of Adi Shankaracharya, the first Shankara from some 1200 and something years ago. Gaudapada's Karika has been translated into English. It probably loses something in translation, but the Gaudapada's Karika is, in my opinion, not as good as what we're going through right now by Swami Rama. Swami Rama, English was an original language for him. He's a real thing, yogi, and so he explained this stuff in very clear language, and even that, you cannot explain it in language. We're going through it right now, and it's good, but compared to the insight that comes when you're being quiet and inside exploring, these words are not good enough. So the words don't, the senses just don't have the capacity. The language used in daily life for learning, communicating, and knowing is so shallow that the vast bulk of knowledge remains buried in the supreme library of the unconscious. Now, you and I may want to philosophically not agree with that, but here is a suggestion being laid in front of us, and we're stuck with it. We can reject it if we want. But if we pause for a moment and consider the possibility that it's an accurate statement, it leaves you and I no choice other than to say, wow, maybe what the dude is telling me is true, and maybe I need to lay on the couch and do contemplation. And if I drift off into sleep, sleep is the enemy, but okay, it happens, and I won't beat up on myself, but I am going to be persistent with this. I'm not merely going to just pass on this and say, okay, I've read the book, that's good enough. No, no, no. The language used in daily life for learning, communicating, and knowing is so shallow that the vast bulk of knowledge remains buried in the supreme library of the unconscious, and only a very little part of it can be expressed. That's what we're attempting to do now. We are attempting to look at what Swami Rama has expressed in these words and what the ancient rishis have expressed in the 12 verses. And I'm trying to have a little conversation with you to hopefully add something to that. But we're stuck with this. One's desires, thoughts, and feelings, therefore, mostly remain untranslated. And the more one learns of the reality of inner levels, the more one finds difficulties in the limitations of human language. Now, you hear me talk a lot about the problem of language. I assure you, I am not parroting a quote from Swami Rama. That's not where I get this insight. I get the insight from attempting to do it and coming to the same conclusion that Swamiji is telling us here in this sentence. My direct experience of this matches what he says here. So I'm going to read it again just so we all have it. And then you get to ponder it, do all these contemplations, and make the discoveries for yourself that says, wow, this is very, very difficult. So then when you are trying to talk to a friend of yours and explain some subtlety of this and you have difficulty, when you write an email to me and say, please help me, I want to know how to explain so-and-so to my friend, can you please tell me how to do that? Don't feel bent out of shape when I have to say back to you, it's not expressible in words and I don't know how to tell you. And you have to do it yourself. And guess what? I'm sorry to tell you this, but so does your friend. And this is why, so it's one of the big reasons why so few people do this stuff. Hi, Leela.
Hi, Leela.
Leela is here. How nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to read that again. One's desires, thoughts, and feelings therefore mostly remain untranslated, and the more one learns of the reality of inner levels, the more one finds difficulty in the limitations of human language. Sages often use symbols such as Om. Sages often used, past tense, symbols such as the Om and interpreted them to make their students aware of an aspect of knowledge that could not be expressed by language. You just can't find enough words. You can fill a library of books with words of ink written on a page, and it simply does not contain the wisdom that is in the symbol. And the Om symbol, the squiggly symbol, is a symbol. This is, as you know, a symbol. It's a symbol of Om. There's the Ah, the U, the and there's the Turiya. And so this is what we're going through in this text, is a description of this. This is a symbol. And the symbol, we discover, is better than all of the books. But we use the books, we read the words, we talk about them, we take walks. Matri and I were taking a walk this morning, and we're having a conversation. The short version is we were having a conversation about being with other people, and we ended up both kind of laughing, because very often when a walk starts like that, so it's a conversation about some problem or issue or subtlety of meditation, you end up just walking along sort of laughing. Mm-hmm. That's what happened this morning. We were talking about the fact that you end up that you're just walking, because the insight is there and there's not much more that can be said. So the symbols are something. Sages often use symbols such as Om and interpreted them to make their students aware of an aspect of knowledge that could not be expressed by language. This is what we're attempting to do right now. We are using language to attempt to be a pointer towards that which cannot be put in language. This cannot be put in language. We're using language as a pointer to attempt to go in that direction. But ultimately, the symbol is better than the words. It's better than the words written in this book. It's better than the words I'm saying, but this is what we do. All the symbols that travel in the mental train during the dream state and meditation are not meaningless. They have definite content, and they are translated according to the context and nature of the dream. The special method used to know a symbol is the knowledge of the sounds that vibrate to form the symbol. Oh my. Suppose one makes a sound by clapping two hands. That sound will vibrate and create a particular form. By studying the form, one can study the quality and intensity of the sound and its vibrations, and by studying the sound, one can also come to know the form. You and I, we read this sentence here, and it sort of brings to mind, well, what the hell are we talking about there? I don't understand that sentence.
Can you read it again?
I will read it again. And then we say, can you read it again? Can you suggest another book that I can read to understand this? You know what I'm saying? I just read the sentence. I'm going to read it again. We get to the end and say, what did that say? And then what do we want? We want somebody to give us another explanation. We want another book. We want another library. And still we don't understand. We're stuck with that. The only way this stuff makes sense is by going inside and seeing it in its direct formless form. Suppose one makes I'm reading again, Ma. Suppose one makes a sound by clapping two hands. That sound will vibrate and create a particular form. By studying the form, one can study the quality and intensity of the sound and its vibrations, And by studying the sound, one can also come to know the form. We can know something about that process.
Mm-hmm.
I have done that. I have done contemplation on clapping. I have done contemplation on the koan, what is the sound of one hand clapping? And in the depth of stillness and silence, I discovered that the questions vanish. Now, I cannot explain that to you. I'm not capable of giving you words to tell you that, but I'm just telling you, sharing with you the spirit of this. What he says here, by studying the form, one can study the quality and intensity of the sound and its vibration. And by studying the sound, one can also come to know the form. I'm just sharing with you that there's something to this. And I am completely incapable of saying anything more about it. And all the reason I tell you that now is just to say that my experience is that he's telling us the truth here, that we simply have to go inside and play with these things, ponder in them. The entire Upanishadic teachings are condensed in the knowledge of Om. The entire Upanishadic teaching, all of the Upanishads, all of the Vedas, all of the Mahabharata, all of the Bhagavad Gita, it's all condensed in the Om. Recall when we've gone through the Bhagavad Gita. We've done it together several times. We hit a crescendo right at the end of chapter 17. The whole thing comes together in the last few verses of that. Do you remember what it is? Some of you do. I know because we just were there.
Om Tat Sat.
Om Tat Sat. It literally says it. There it is. Om Tat Sat. So this is the thing. Swamiji says the entire Upanishadic teachings are condensed in the knowledge of Om. I love that word, condensed. It's condensed in the Om. One who knows Om in theory and practice knows everything about life, the universe, and the absolute truth. Now that I will agree and acknowledge that is a very, very strong statement. And it's tempting to bring to mind, well, prove that to me, Swami Rama. Prove to me that this is a true statement. One who knows Om in theory and practice knows everything about life, the universe, and the absolute truth. Prove that to me, Swami Rama. Go ahead. Give me a proof. This is the way a lot of modern, very intelligent, high IQ, intellectual, academic people want to approach this stuff. Explain this to me. Convince me that this is true. And I'm sorry, it is simply not possible. In 1970, this story pops into my mind. Around 1970, Swami Rama submitted himself as a research subject in the Voluntary Controls Research Project, which was run by research scientists, physiologists, and MD doctors, and they were doing all this. So one of my favorite parts of that story, of the experience that happened, is when they had him laying down and hooked up to brainwave machines and all this, and Swami Rama was laying there dead asleep, snoring. And their brainwave, they didn't have big modern computers like we do now. Our cell phones are more powerful than the computers than that filled warehouses years ago. But they had EEG brainwaves. So here's this subject of theirs laying there dead asleep, snoring. And then he came back and recited back to them word for word the conversation that they were having while he was asleep. They had to play back their own audio recording. They're scientists, so they were recording everything. They had to play back their own audio recording to determine that, in fact, he got it right. So what did they naturally say to him? To me, it was like when you see a magician do a trick. The natural question is, how did you do that? So they asked him, how did you do that? Well, he answered them. But those idiots, now that's my word, those idiot scientists with their PhDs and their intellectualizing and all that, they didn't follow through on it. They said, How did you do that? What they meant was, this is not possible. We have just witnessed the impossible. It's not possible, just like when the stage magician does a trick, and we're not really asking the magician to tell us how you did it. It's an expression coming from deep inside. How did you do the impossible? And his answer was, roughly, I wasn't there, but the answer was, my brain was asleep. I was awake. Who the hell was awake? The brain was asleep. The EEG machines measured it. The scientists knew he was asleep. Well, they thought he was asleep. They're not yogis. They don't understand that he was not asleep. His brain was asleep. The physical instrument of brain was asleep. He was awake. They did not understand this. One who knows Om in theory and practice knows everything about life, the universe, and absolute truth. But the only way you can get any glimpse of that whatsoever is to utilize your curiosity. And I know all of us together in this conversation, we have curiosity. And we're just stuck with this. Hello, Zhao. We're stuck with that. We have to utilize our curiosity and go inside. And so why does Patanjali have us work with yamas and niyamas? So that we have an okay relationship with the world, so it's not disturbing me. Why do we do asana? So that we can be still and quiet. As I'm talking right now, Matri is laying on the floor right there, not moving. Rojo is over on the couch, not moving. That's called asana. Now, if we are doing this well, we can be perfectly still. Most people cannot lay on the couch the way Rojo is and stay awake. Most people cannot lay on the floor like Matri is right now and stay awake and do the stuff we're talking about. Why? Because we are conditioned that when you lay down, it's time to lose consciousness and become inert and fall asleep. But if you have, now she's looking at me, her little eyeballs just opened up and she's looking at me now.
I was not asleep.
Because she was not asleep. I knew she was not asleep. Mm-hmm. And so you and I simply must practice this. We must train ourselves how to lay there still and not move and yet not lose consciousness. And gradually, we will get our own glimpses of what he's telling us here. One who knows Om in theory and practice knows everything about life, the universe, and the absolute truth. Now, I know that's an extremely strong statement because he uses the word everything. It doesn't mean that you're a mind reader and you literally know every detail of every human being's mind. It doesn't mean you know all of that 100% detail, but we understand the nature of how things are operating. And you may be in some particular field of engineering or mathematics or medical sciences, and because of this, you have some deep intuition come to you about the nature of that mathematical formula or this healing principle, and you have a thing that you have made a discovery that nobody else before in history has ever discovered, and you end up with a Nobel Prize or something like this. This is where these ideas come from, is from the depth. The teachings of the Upanishads are higher than those of other scriptures. Strong claim. Again, sarcastically I say, prove that to me, Swami Rama. Prove that to me. Show me. Where are you getting that information? You can't. These are explanations given to us. They are not debate arguments to win a debate. Yoga is a higher science, yes. And it's one that cannot be put in the debate club. The teachings of the Upanishads are higher than those of other scriptures. The words of the seers are meaningful and applicable and are full of knowledge and wisdom, for they originate at the deepest level of consciousness. Notice what happens just as you and I sit here and have this little conversation today. You can feel your awareness going somewhere, can't you? I know you can. They originate at the deepest level of consciousness. But the knowledge that comes through the intellect and mind in an academic and scholarly way is inferior to the knowledge received by the sages in deep contemplation and meditation. So if Matri and Rojo want to get a PhD by studying academia, they're not going to get it the way they're doing right now. It may give them their PhD thesis and the real answer, but they still have to do the work out here. But it's inferior knowledge. It is inferior to the knowledge received by the sages in deep contemplation and meditation. And if Matri and Rojo want to have that deeper knowledge, they have to keep doing what they're doing right now, laying on the couch, laying on the floor, and attempting to ponder and be aware and take stuff in and yet stay awake. And yet sometimes you fall asleep. And it's okay. You don't beat up on yourself. You just say, okay, well, that was a nice little nap, but I intended to remain awake. So Matri, I think, is probably still awake. She just made a little nodding gesture there at me, just so I out here know that she's awake. I kind of knew that she was. I'm not too sure about Rojo. Rojo, are you awake? Rojo. I think we lost Rojo. 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 Lost Rojo. See, but it's not a big deal. It happens. Sometimes you lose it. The sayings of the sages have a profound impact on the hearts and minds of aspirants, while the knowledge derived through the intellect is incomplete and has no lasting effect. Now, if we do this conversation that you and I are having right now, if we did this well, we've been together almost an hour. If we did this well, you're sitting there right now taking this in, and you're sitting there pondering this as well. You're not just listening to me babble at you. And you have some sense that the sayings of the sages leave a profound impact on the hearts and minds of aspirants. You're an aspirant. I'm an aspirant. Do you feel some sense of profound impact from the sayings? And I think the answer is yes. There's some of our inner intuition, is there not, that says, wow, there's something to this. There's something to this. Right, Ma? Mm-hmm. She's nodding again. Now she actually said, mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's right. That was a quote of Leela.
Yeah, I am in the mood for Sunday also now.
You're in the mood for what?
Sunday, tomorrow.
Now she's getting all fired up and in the mood for Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
When tomorrow afternoon we get Preacher Leela.
And she's here today with us too.
And she's here today with us right now. And that will be fun. The sayings of the sages leave a profound impact on the hearts and minds of aspirants, while the knowledge derived through the intellect is incomplete and has no lasting effect. All righty, so that's the end of that's the end of the discussion on verse 1 of the 12 verses of Mandukya Upanishad and what Swami Rama has to say about it. Okay? So let it sink in. Let it sink in. And Johnny says, zzz. Which, if we hold it in a playful way, is another word for om. Zzz. Just do your Z's awake and alert. So we'll pause there. Thank you for spending some time with Saturday Night Live. But Saturday Night Live is inside the confines of time, space, and causation.
I want to get out of Saturday Night.
There's nothing wrong with Saturday Night Live. There's nothing wrong with being in this world of time, space, and causation. But let us spend a little bit of time being aware of that which is beyond time, space, and causation. And then isn't it true that this out here within time, space, and causation becomes tremendously more fun? And being in a body and being in this world is not such a bad thing after all. There's a lot of fun that can be had out here. As the boss told me one time when I wanted to do a favor for him for what he was doing to me, I said, "What can I do for you?" You know this story, most of you. What can I do for you? And I know you can tell it because you've heard it so many times. And he just looked at me, and boy, the look that was on the face of his heart was so rich. He just said, "Enjoy life." And I have given him what he asked for.
Now you got to give us what you promised.
And we're going to make a little journey and walk over to the store. Do we have a shopping list yet?
No, it's in my mind.
We need to write it down, I think. I know some of what we need, but we're going to go to the shopping list. I mean, we're going to go we'll take a walk and go get some goodies for breakfast tomorrow. We need bananas. Yeah. I want some bananas tomorrow morning with my oatmeal. Okay? So thank you all for spending some time together with Saturday Night Live. I know for a couple of you, it's already Sunday morning. Good morning, Hashim. Thank you for playing. I enjoy playing with you like this. It's fun. And Daniel is with us again. Hi, Daniel. It's way late in tomorrow in Guam. It's way in tomorrow. It's 8 o'clock here, so I guess it's becoming near noon tomorrow. Noon on Sunday or something thereabouts. I think it's something like that. So anyway, and Roseanne gave smiley faces with hearts for eyes, and I don't know about the green hearts and ohms. Please push the button, Roseanne. Roseanne has been here and is telling me to push the button. I don't have any choice now. Roseanne has made it official. I have to push the button. Yes, Daniel says it's noon. That was a pretty good guess on my part, wasn't it? You're welcome, Scott. Thank you for hanging out and playing. I will allow Raj's Om to be the last word. How fitting it is, right? Om. Thank you, Raj. Bye-bye, all. See you later. I'm pushing the button, Roseanne. Here we go. I push button. See, I actually have to push two buttons. Now I'm pushing the other one. Om. Tat Sat.